This is Here in My Time, and I am so thankful and excited you've tuned in to this very first season of my brand new podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Hunt, and I am so honored to say that this first season of 16 episodes, hour-long weekly segments, is actually sponsored by one of my favorite stores in downtown Huntington, Indiana. Can you tell the excitement in my voice? That's right, you've guessed it, Turn the Page Books and Music Store. Rex is the owner of this fine establishment. This is the place to go if you are looking for your next read or to add to your vinyl collection. It is jam-packed full of used books, everything from fiction to nonfiction, and of course a huge variety of records from rock and roll to Taylor Swift. And let me tell you, Rex is the perfect owner because he is a music library. If you need help picking out your first record or maybe adding to your collection, this is the man for you. Whenever you walk in the door, music is playing constantly. You got perfect lighting. You've got the wooden floors. It's the perfect vibe to enjoy your day in. So make sure you stop in and visit, and also follow him on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much, Rex, for your support. It means the world to me. Now on to the episode. This is Here in My Time, the podcast dedicated to bridging the gap between generations. I'm your host, Lauren Hunt, a local personal journalist, photographer, documentarian, and a lover of people and their stories, located right here in Wabash, Indiana. Today on this episode, I'm so excited because I have Miss Kim Bickel with me, and she is just a light. She is such a childlike adult, which I love so much in the best way. She just has the best spirit about her, and she is a teacher turned wellness coach. So I'm so excited to have this conversation. So thank you so much for being here, Kim.
Welcome. I'm honored to come, and thank you for those kind things.
We met in theater for 9 to 5.
Yes.
And when I first met you, I want to give my first impressions of you. I loved the fact when we first met, we had rehearsals down at the church, and we were sitting back there, and we were about to get started, and you came in with your smile, like you always do, and just like own the room when you smile. Like it makes everybody so happy. You have the best smile, and if you don't know what she looks like, there's a post that goes with this episode, and she just has the best smile.
Just check it out. I'm adorable.
Yeah, she is adorable. She's amazing. She's amazing. But one thing I loved about you is you had such a spirit of giving your 100%. 110% or more at everything that you did.
Well, yes, because you're going to perform the way you rehearse.
Yeah.
So you're not pretending like you're in a show. You're in the show.
Yeah, you were really amazing and inspiring to watch, because there was moments in the show where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. But the way that I just watched you hold yourself in rehearsals, and it was such a great guiding point for me, because I was just like, wow, she just does everything. She tries her best, and that is all she's going to do, is just try her best. And you just performed like no other on stage. So it was really cool to meet you through that. And ever since then,
Thank you. What a sweet thing to say.
It was so cool to work with you. And I can't wait to work with you someday again. That'd be amazing.
I love that. You know what? And I don't know if you remember this, but we met one time before that. And the first time I met you, this was interesting because you call yourself an old soul. And when I saw you, you were wearing Pioneer gear. Do you remember the Pioneers
Yes, I
days?
do.
And I bought that broom from you, and you insisted that I take it with me, even though I didn't have my payment right at that moment. And you're like, no, take it, because I know where to find you. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I trusted you. It's so funny because that timeline like completely felt like it all meshes together. So that is technically our first meeting. But I was thinking about rehearsals when I was first
well,
meeting.
that's when we got to know each other.
Okay, I guess that would be better way to say it. But yeah, I do remember that. That was really cool because I was with a bunch of kids showing them how to make brooms at the time. And that was really fun down at Pioneer Fest. So that was really cool. But yeah, I have so much I want to talk to you about. Of course, wellness, health, and fitness, which is all you. And just your mental attitude is fabulous. But I kind of want to get to know you. This is such an excuse for me to kind of dig a little bit deeper on who you are as just a person. So take me back to your childhood. Where and when were you born, and kind of what was your life like growing up?
Sure. Well, I was born in 1962, and I grew up in a little town called Bourbon, Indiana. It's northwest of Wabash, about an hour. And I have 3 sisters. And I grew up, I say, without a first name because I wasn't Kim. I was, which one are you? Are you number 2? Are you number 3? Are you number 4? I was like, I'm number 3. Just call me number 3. That's my name, number 3. So I had 2 big sisters and a little sister. And the whole time I was in school, I was constantly being called someone else's name, which was fine. It didn't bother me. They were good people.
Yeah.
But grew up out in the country and loved playing outside and climbing trees
Oh,
and riding dirt bikes.
really?
Yes.
I
Yes.
love that.
I was in the 3rd grade riding a dirt bike,
That's awesome.
tearing the yard up and my knees too. We had this teeny tiny Honda 50.
Oh my gosh.
And my little sister and I would both get on it at the same time because we were that little and drive all over the yard.
Oh my gosh.
And we grew up traveling. My dad loved to travel, and we would take vacations every summer. And he really instilled that love in me for adventure and travel because that was something we did. We went camping every summer. And
Oh,
it was a neat, fun thing.
Yeah. How would you have described yourself as a kid, looking back now?
Very much a tomboy as a kid. I was outside playing in the dirt, climbing trees, trying to jump on the horses without a saddle. If we could get them to come over to the fence, we would hop on them and just like hang on to the mane.
So
And
you had horses?
just for a little while, we did.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I want a horse so bad.
I never got big enough to saddle one by myself. By the time I was old enough to understand that, we didn't have them anymore. So we just had them for a few years when I was littler.
Oh, yeah. When you were talking about dirt bikes and like riding around the lawn and stuff,
Mhm.
we never had dirt bikes, but my favorite thing was when Dad would let us drive the lawnmower around. Like, even if it wasn't cutting, we would just drive it around the yard here. And that was so fun to me because my grandpa started that whole thing. Because when we were young, he would put us on his lap and he would mow with us on the lap. And that's always that sticks out to me so much and so much fun in my mind. And I was thinking about one time I climbed this tree out. There's a huge oak tree over here. And I climbed up there. And as soon as I got up there, I thought this was a horrible idea. Like, you get up there because you think I was with friends, so I was kind of showing off a little bit. And so I climb up it and I'm like, this is not good because if I jump, you get up there and you freeze. I don't know if you ever remember like just kind of for a moment freezing because you're like, okay, now how do I get down? Sometimes if it's not very because we had to like swing up the limb and it wasn't exactly a climbable tree.
Okay.
So like you had just the way that it was positioned at the time and like the way that the limbs were, it seemed a lot shorter than what it was. By the time you got up there, it was a whole lot taller than what you realized as a kid. And so I just couldn't remember. I'm like, please don't make a fool of myself. Don't break anything. You got yourself up here because you wanted to show off. And so that's how I was as a kid. I was a show off all the time. I love that.
That happened to my little sister getting stuck in a tree more than once because she would follow me up into the tree and then she would be afraid to get back out. And my mom would have to come out and my mom would climb the tree.
Oh my gosh.
And my little sister Lori would like clamp onto her like you see a koala bear clamp onto
Oh
something.
my gosh.
And my mom would climb back down with her and
I love that. Isn't that like such good memories? Like it's so fun. We would like carve our names into the tree limbs when we get up so high or
Yes.
whatever. And I feel like we would do it every level that we would get a little bit higher because we could reach it. Like we'd get a little bit taller and we
Yes.
could reach the next limb or like whatever it might be.
Great idea. I never did that. Now I want to do it.
You should. We could start it. We could do it together. I love that. So what was your mom like?
Oh, my mom was very organized. She, what do I want to say about her? She was excellent at encouraging me.
Ooh.
I remember having goals as a little kid and her encouraging me to achieve them. One time I had the goal of staying up till midnight and I was in grade school and she said I could do it on a weekend. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to stay up till midnight. And that was a big deal because we had bedtimes when we weren't supposed to do that. But I had that goal and she was going to help me. And when it started getting late, I started getting tired. And I was whining and I didn't want to stay up anymore. And she was like, no, you can do this. You can do this. And she was telling me jokes and reading me funny stories and helping me get through it.
Wow.
So I could stay up until midnight.
How cool is that?
But if there was something I wanted to do, she wanted to encourage me and help me
Wow.
get that done. My dad was really encouraging too. And this story came to mind when I thought of encouragement. When I was in high school, I think it was right after I graduated, I joined a church softball league for ladies.
Mm-hmm.
I was the worst one on the team. And I came home from practice and my dad said, well, how was the softball practice? And I said, oh, Dad. I said, I'm the worst one on the team. And he said, well, then you can do something that nobody else can do. And I looked at him and he said, you can improve the most. And I was like, wow, what a great attitude.
I love that. But isn't that interesting when you have parents that really do encourage you? They twist what you find negative into something positive
Yes.
in your life. And that's so cool to see your parents and hear about your parents do something like that for you. Even from the littlest thing of staying up till midnight to being a real, just improving the best on a team. Like, that's so cool.
Oh, yeah. And I think about my mom encouraging me when I was in college. When I was a college freshman, I didn't make a great adjustment at first.
Mm-hmm.
I started off as a freshman at Ball State University, and I never left the small town before. So for the first time in my life, I had to make all new friends.
Oh, yeah.
And live in a town where I wasn't familiar with things. And I didn't handle it well at all. I would call my mom like 3 times a week going, please let me quit. Please let me quit. Why can't I go home? My friend so-and-so quit and her mom let her go home. And she wouldn't let me quit because she knew it was important to me. And then I chose a different school for my second, third, and fourth year. But anyway, she encouraged me to stay. I would have quit if she would have said, yeah, go ahead and come home. And that would have really changed the whole trajectory of my life.
Oh, wow. It's interesting to look back and see where, if I would have gave in to the things that I felt at the time, where my life would have turned to, both good and bad. I mean, as far as like if I would have quit something, what door would have opened then, or where would I have been then, or vice versa. It is very interesting because I can remember my parents being the same way. They encouraged, they didn't want us to quit something. And I remember when I moved to college, it was a different adjustment because I went to Cleveland, and that was a whole different adjustment than here in Wabash.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool. But the thing that they always did was they would call and check and like do all the things. That encouragement to say, like, even when it was really hard in classes where I wasn't getting something, they're like, you're smart enough to get it. Just keep applying yourself. Like it, and it's really cool. And I wish every kid had that kind of experience in their life. Like I just wish every person had that. And one thing that I want to do with these episodes, and especially this episode here, because we're going to talk about a lot here, but as far as, the wellness all around, full body experience of wellness, one thing I really want to do is be that to somebody who doesn't always have that in their life, and to tell people stories to show like, hey, this is, you can get through whatever you need to get through in life because people have already gone that far.
Yes.
Like you can make it through. Everything's going to be okay. And I want to be that encouragement to them, even if it's just a funny podcast one day, or if it's just whatever. I love that. So you were talking about how you went to college. What were you dreaming about as a kid? You said you had a lot of goals.
Oh, I did. And are you asking like when I started college, or
just what were you wanting to be as a kid? Was it something different than what you are doing did now? Or?
Yeah, when I was a little kid, I thought I was going to grow up and be a singer. Well, we don't know where that came from, but I wanted to do that. That was my little bitty kid dream.
Yeah.
And then when I got like in high school, I fell in love with business classes that I was taking, and I was going to be a secretary. And I was going to go to college and get a 2-year secretarial degree. And then I was going to move to a big city and like live in a high-rise apartment building and be a secretary in some giant business somewhere. And that was my goal. And then I found out that my boyfriend was going to stay in college for 4 years instead of 2. So I had to change my major so I could find something that I could do for 4 years instead of 2. And so I was like, well, I could do teaching
Yeah.
because I loved the experience that I had in high school. And I loved those business classes. And I thought, I want to have as much fun on the job as Mr. Boyer used to have every day when he was teaching us shorthand and accounting and stuff. And so that's what I decided to do.
Wow, that's so cool. Like just the fact that you fell in love with business and those little things because you had such a good experience in high school. When you became a teacher, I mean, you went to college and then you did become a teacher. Did you ever take what you learned from those teachers and how to actually apply that in the class, just as an attitude, how to be a good teacher?
Sure. And I think of lots of excellent teachers from my past. I had a math teacher, Ron Smith, who was outstanding. And I had a choral director, Don Dowdy, who was excellent in the classroom. And then Ron Boyer, who was my mentor and role model through all the business classes. And a combination of logic and enthusiasm and having fun in the classroom while you're still checking off the boxes for the things that are required,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
all of those things.
What was it about business that you just loved or fell in love with?
I loved the logic that in the things that I was doing, it's either black or white, it's right or wrong. That's what I loved about accounting. You couldn't just guess. It was either right or wrong, and you knew why it was right or wrong because these are the steps and this is the principle behind it. And I liked that.
Even at such a young age, you just loved that black and white?
Yeah.
Wow.
I liked the logic behind finding these solutions. And we know that the answer is this because of that. It was the same way with geometry. If I hadn't taught business, I think I would have taught math. I loved geometry and the theorems and the proofs and stuff and writing out those steps and knowing this is the correct answer because these are the steps I took to get there.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Wow. Well, your path to that, becoming a teacher and all this stuff, was it as black and white as you thought it was going to be?
Oh, no, because I thought I was going to be a secretary. And the reason I chose to become a teacher is really corny.
Yeah.
But it was the right thing for my life, and I've loved it.
Oh my gosh. It is cool, like the twists and turns your life takes. Because like at first you think you're going to do this, and then you fall in love with something else, and it pulls. But everything kind of ties together, I feel like. Just everything that's the cool thing. It's like we're very, as people, as a human, like we're not just one-sided. We're so much deeper than what we can compartmentalize in our mind. Like we can love such vast things in life and like do so much. And I feel like it's so cool to watch you do what you do in just the small amount of time that I've seen you do it, because in your life, you just have done so much. You're really amazing. Watching you put yourself into positions of something new like theater, and watching you create amazing communities online and encourage people. It's like you're doing everything that you were meant to be doing. Isn't that so? It's so cool to see somebody's life like that.
And it's fascinating to see the things that God uses to bring you to the place where he wants you to be. And this is his path for you. And he put these things into your life to bring you there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so, he knows exactly what you're meant to do in life. And you have a purpose in life. Everybody does have a purpose in life. You're here for a reason. You're here to make somebody's life better. You're here to just, actually make an impact on your community and the world and stuff. And I love watching people fall into their purpose. I call it fall into their purpose because sometimes it makes no sense how they got there or how they're going to get there. But it's so cool to see people just fall into their purpose no matter, what, because they're here for a reason. Their life is important. So talk to me about teaching. You had a great experience in high school. You went to college and you fell into teaching. Was it straight out of college you started teaching? Or okay.
Yes.
What did you love so much about teaching?
I loved helping people get to a goal. And for some, the goal was honor roll. And for somebody else, the goal might be valedictorian. And for somebody else, the goal might be, I just want a diploma. And those are all valid goals. And so knowing what we're doing and why we're doing it really impacts the motivation. So I loved helping kids. Sometimes they would struggle with like, why do I have to do this?
Mhm.
And helping them see this is how this could be used in your life 5, 10, 20 years from now. Because I think it's frustrating and disappointing to be sitting in a class, learning a bunch of stuff, and you think you're never going to use it. And that doesn't feel very good.
Mhm.
But I encourage them to ask me anytime it seems unclear. Just ask me, how will I ever use this in my life? And I'll tell you how. Because none of this stuff is just for the fun of it or just to check off boxes. Although we do have boxes we're required to check, but that's not why we're doing it.
Mhm.
Because we're doing it because it's going to impact your life.
Mhm.
And you're going to be able to do this, 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 and this because of what you learned here.
Mhm. I think teachers have one of the biggest impacts on people's lives. That you've got kids and young adults at a time when their mind is still developing and their heart is still developing. I mean that figuratively and literally. They're so malleable at that age. And having a teacher that has a heart for their students, I've had the opportunity to really talk to a lot of teachers so far on this podcast. And the more and more you hear is they actually had a heart for their students and to really truly care about them as a person and them as a life. I asked Kathy Goldman this question, and I asked her about how do you keep that line of course, there's a professionalism line. But as somebody, you want to help people and encourage people to go further, which means you're also very, in a way, a sensitive person because you care about people, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And I love seeing the fact that there's a line of professionalism. But how do you keep your heart in the posture of helping kids that will push them forward and be hard on them, but not too hard to where it breaks?
Sure. And sometimes you can read that by their response,
Mm-hmm.
and that guides your reaction to how you can best help them.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got your honor roll kid who needs to be pushed harder and can be pushed harder, and you talk with them one-on-one about what they're doing. And then you have the person who is really struggling and maybe doesn't have great support at home, and they're thinking about quitting school, and they think, why bother?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference between the encouragement you provide to someone who's trying to figure out how to survive
Mm-hmm.
compared to the person who is already thriving and wants or needs more.
Mm-hmm.
And you judge that when you know enough about that individual
Mm-hmm.
to speak to their life.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at their face and you treat them like a human, not like this annoying troublemaker in my third period class.
Mm-hmm.
And when the students know that you care about who they are, that matters. And you're not just rushing through the answers. You're ending each time someone asks you a question, I like to end it with, have I answered what you wanted to know?
Oh.
With my students. Because it's easy to slip into I've heard that question 1,000 times, and you slap out this answer and you move on to the next kid because there's several with questions, and that kid's thinking, but that's not what I was trying to ask.
Oh.
You listen with your eyes and with your heart to what they're saying to you as if that's a brand new question.
Oh.
Make sure you're answering what they wanted to know.
Wow.
And that was a huge helpful tool for me for years.
Mm. Well, did it ever feel overwhelming to have so many different needs in one classroom? Does it ever feel like I don't want to say out of control, but because you want your students to succeed and to feel fulfilled when they're in your class, does it ever feel just overwhelming or moments where you're just like, I didn't know what to do? Did you ever have moments like that?
probably, some aren't coming to mind right now. That was probably more in my earlier years, because as your experience grows, you begin to get a feel for how much material you can cover in a class period and still address the questions that might come up. Or sometimes you would end up cutting a lesson short because there were more questions than you expected. Maybe I'm teaching a new technique for the first time. And since I taught technology, that happened every year. There'd be something that I hadn't taught before. And I wouldn't know what questions to expect.
Oh.
You know, you could anticipate some of them, but some of them you're like, oh, I didn't know that would happen. And so you have to be flexible with that. And I've just gone off on some kind of rabbit trail.
No, you didn't. No, you did well. I was just wondering. So you've now retired.
Yes.
How long did you teach for?
I taught for 33 years.
At the same place?
No, I taught a bunch of different places. Right out of college, I taught at Mechanical High School. And then I was fortunate enough to secure a position back in my hometown of Bourbon, Indiana.
Oh, wow.
And I actually got to teach with my mentor and favorite high school teacher, Ron Boyer. And we taught together at Triton High School. And then he went somewhere else, and I taught with some other people. I taught in Kokomo schools for a year. I taught at Peru High School for 13 years. Thought I was going to retire there. And then an opportunity came up at Mechanical schools. And my husband was already teaching at Mechanical, and my 2 daughters were attending Mechanical. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we were all on the same calendar? Why don't I take a look at that opportunity? And then I ended up teaching there for 17 years.
Wow. That's amazing. What did you see throughout the time that you taught? As you know, this podcast it's really important to me to bridge the gap between generations. And I was wondering, what kind of things did you see in the years that you taught as students came in that that you found interesting or that just stood out to you about students?
Yeah. I remember noticing the difference in age levels. I had 3 or 4 years maybe where I taught 5th and 6th graders for a portion of the day, and I was teaching them touch typing skills. Now, at the time that I graduated college, I had not had any word processing. That was not yet a thing. And then here I am teaching these children how to use computers and word processing stuff. But the difference in kids, younger kids cannot wait to please you. Those 5th, 6th, and 7th graders, oh my gosh, they had their hands up all the time. And they wanted to answer your question, and they also wanted to tell you that they had a new puppy, and they also wanted to tell you that their goldfish died. And there's all this energy and enthusiasm that you have to channel into productivity in the classroom. And then kids at the high school walk in, and in a way, it's like their hearts have hardened, and they walk in wondering whether you care about them. All the little kids already knew that you loved them, and they acted that way. Get the high school kids, and they're like, yeah, I don't know if this person's going to be any good, if this teacher's going to like me at all, or if I'm going to like this class. And it's just interesting how things change as they mature.
I wrote an article one time on my website about ignorance is bliss, because when you don't know anything, you don't really have much to worry about, because you are not aware of the things good, bad, ugly, everything in between. You're not really fully aware of everything. You just see it the way that a kid sees things. And then as you grow up, and even in going into just high school, it is a different awareness of your life, of the people around you, of, oh, this isn't a joke. Like, this isn't just, I can't just do this, or just can't just do that. And that same thing goes for, after retirement. Everybody's life is so different, and every season of life is so different. And did you find that kind of idea of ignorance is bliss after retirement?
I don't know if I understand what you're asking me.
So like after you retired, what was your mindset shift? Because it is hard when when you've been doing something for so
Oh,
long and your life changes, your season changes.
yeah.
What was your mindset going in? Because it's just like a young student coming into high school, like young
Hmm.
kid finally getting old enough and coming into high school. It's a different mindset shift. It's a different awareness of their life. Was there that kind of shift in your mind when you retired?
That's an interesting question. Now, my retirement was different than some of my friends. As I watched my friends retire, I sometimes saw them asking themselves how they would decide when to retire, and it might be based on how much they could stand. And sometimes they would list things like student behavior or changes mandated by state laws or administrator expectations. And sometimes they would look at those things and let those be factors in their decision.
Mhm.
And mine was not like that at all. My husband is 10 years older than I am. And we sat down and wrote kind of a life plan, or what we mapped out that we hoped would be our life plan.
Mhm.
And he was going to retire at 55. And then we decided that it would be great for me to retire as soon as I was eligible, because he was like, how many years do you think I want to spend sitting around waiting for you to be ready to do all the stuff we want to do in retirement
Oh.
when I've been retired for 10 years? And I was like, cool, I'll retire as soon as I'm eligible. and so that's what I chose to do. But I was making that decision based on when we looked at our finances and what we wanted our life to look like. And it didn't have anything to do with student behavior or administrative expectations or frustration or fatigue. It was, here's the date I'm going to do this and here's why I'm going to do it. And so I didn't have the same kind of struggle. But going into retirement, it was important for me to have something I was retiring to.
Mm.
I needed to have something to do.
Mhm.
It would not have been pleasant for me to just stop doing anything
Mhm.
at that point, because I had too much energy and enthusiasm
Mhm.
and eagerness to continue.
Mhm.
And it was going to be more than just making lunch, although I do make lunch. That's one thing I do that I didn't used to do. I make lunch now that I'm retired. But I wanted more than just making lunch.
Yeah.
And that's when I poured myself more into my fitness business at
Mhm.
that time. And that became a driving part of my life for years.
Wow. Okay, so great segue, perfect segue to this, because I wanted to ask you, you have always had this amazing just spirit about you, I've already said, but you have such a happy mindset. Was that always the case in your life? I mean, I know that your mom and dad encouraged you and things, but even encouragement goes so far when it's your mindset where you need to start shifting your mindset. Have you always been this? I want to say go lucky, but it's not that kind of. It takes work to have a good outlook on life constantly on
Yes.
things. Because as much as we talked about, people can look at somebody's life and just say, oh, they've just not had a hard life, or they've had a perfect life. And they can use that excuse to say that they wouldn't understand. My life is different than your life, and I'm different than the next person and the next person, and our experiences are different. So where did that mindset come into play in your mind? Because you're just amazing person. I can't compliment you enough, but
What a kind thing to say. Thank you.
yeah.
I think I get my attitude from my dad. He's one of the most positive people I've ever known. And it seems like it almost doesn't matter what's going on. He's going to find a way to find the best in that. So in a way, I was like hardwired from a very early age to be joyful. And I can say that I felt that way most of the time growing up. When I was a high school senior, they used to have these superlative awards, and they were student voted on in our class, and they voted me most cheerful. And I was delighted by that. I was like, cool, I feel really cheerful. So that was nice. So I came by it through the example that my dad set and my own choice at times, because there are times when it's might be work to stay cheerful.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that comes through guarding your heart against negativity. I remember one time I had a season where I stopped going down to lunch, and a girlfriend of mine said, why have you stopped coming to lunch every day? And this was as a professional in the workplace. She said, why did you stop coming to lunch? And I said, it's starting to feel like it's just a big gripe session. And I know we all have frustrations.
Yes.
And we have things to deal with, and we need to find a place to vent that.
Yes.
But I find at the end of lunch that I'm walking back to my classroom like wanting to hang my head because all I've heard is discouragement. And that's heavy. And so I would protect my heart. For a season I did that. It was probably a semester or so, where I started eating lunch by myself in my room so that I wouldn't be exposed to that negativity.
Mm-hmm.
It's also true that when my girlfriend asked me, I told her the truth. And she took that back to the lunch crowd, and it helped them too. And it's not that we couldn't share our concerns with one another,
Right.
but it became less of a griping session. At the time, it was griping about administration.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, can you not see what these administrators are trying to do and why they're trying to do it that way?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a fun and pleasant change, but it makes sense and I respect it. And anyway, whatever.
That's great that you said to be honest with not only yourself, but with the other people around you about situations that could cause more pain than it could cause more productivity towards something good, you know?
Yeah.
I love that. So can I ask you, you used several terms there. You said cheerful, joyful.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference between happiness and being joyful?
Absolutely.
Okay, can you explain it to me?
I think that happiness is momentary or situational.
Mm.
I'm very happy if I ate a good lunch,
Mm-hmm.
but my joy is deeper than that.
Mm.
And an important part of my joy comes from salvation
Mm-hmm.
and belief in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And that runs deeper. Even in a moment where I'm sad, mad, struggling, I can say that I have a joy in my life, even though I may not feel happy in that moment. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's very much where my joy comes from as well. But there are moments in our lives where it is kind of like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. It's, it's where that trust and that faith comes into play. But it is something deeper within yourself. And I just found it interesting because when you said joyful and when you said cheerful, it is completely different. In my mind, it's separate. But sometimes it's so easy for us to say, well, I'm just not happy. I'm just not happy. What are some tangible ways that you have implied this mindset in your day-to-day life? Of course, we talk about salvation and God and being rooted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you expand on just things that you do to keep you in that mindset, in that heart posture? I like to call it a heart posture.
So I do a daily scripture reading, but I don't know if you're asking about that or if you're asking
anything.
Okay.
Whatever makes you.
One of the things that helps me tremendously is staying physically active, and I find that if I'm not, it doesn't take like 2 or 3 days before I start going, I'm kind of getting a little cranky. And it's because I haven't had that endorphin rush from activity. And different people get it different ways. But for me, that comes through physical exercise. For somebody else, maybe they get an endorphin rush out of playing the piano or singing or whatever. But the constant in my life for building a positive spirit comes from the endorphin rush that I get from exercising regularly. One time I twisted my ankle years ago, and for like 3 days, I had to sit on the couch with it elevated, and 3 days, okay, that's not that long over the course of a lifetime. But in 3 days, I thought, oh my gosh, I see why some people fight with depression. This is just, oh, poor me. And it was awful. And it was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what suffering is. 3 days. Come on, get a hold of yourself, woman. And so I was trying to listen to happy music and watch a funny show. And what can I do to get myself feeling better about it was 3 days, for crying out loud. I did not handle it well.
But isn't that funny? Because I do the same thing if I haven't done certain things or created in a very long time. Like I work out and I'm training for like a half marathon and I'm doing all these things, I guess more consistent in those things, like in fitness or in whatever it might be. But there are certain things where if I haven't been around my grandparents for a long time, or if I haven't had really good family time for a long time, there's something that endorphin rush that happens. There is science that backs up the idea between fitness and mental health,
Absolutely.
as well as eating well. This is stuff that you talk about a lot as a wellness coach, is just this idea of fitness and getting up and doing the thing that we need to do. Can I ask you the question, you when you're in states like that, is there a difference between numbing that thought in your head and actually doing something about that thought?
Well, sure. You want to not be in denial of struggles that you're having in your life. And I don't want to say that exercise is an escape from those. So when you're facing a struggle in your life, sometimes that makes it harder for you to continue staying active like you know you should, because you get so wound up in the concern or the problem that you just want to go, I'm so discouraged I can't do anything. And then you just want to mope around and not do anything physically for yourself. And maybe you're like eating potato chips and ice cream all day long, trying to soothe whatever emotion you're struggling through. What were you wanting to know about this?
I'm going to go with what I understand. We, as my generation, we have access to absolutely everything, which we've talked a lot on this podcast about having access to absolutely everything and anything. And sometimes the things that actually is going to heal you isn't the things that we go after. We go after the things that are quick highs or that are quick results.
Oh, sure.
And I'm wondering, fitness is definitely a long form result. In the long run of things, you're going to have a result at the end of 6 months different than you would after a week, right? But it's during these processes of like working out, getting up every single day and actually going to the gym, actually picking up the weight when you don't feel like picking up the weight, or running when you do not feel like running. And sometimes I wonder, is there a way to know beyond just like the, I guess, the forefront of, okay, I'm not actually going to the gym, I'm just watching videos of how to get back into a gym. Okay, that's a lot of our generation, is we have so many influencers. We can watch somebody go to the gym and we think that for some reason in our mind, it's tricked us to think that, yeah, I'm good, because I've watched somebody else do it. And we see the happiness that comes with their life, but we don't always imply some of the things that we see other people doing or know that we need to do. So how do we create habits in our life that will help us get from just numbing the things that we know we need to get done in our life and actually heal? Because it's my favorite thing to say, and I tell this to my friends when we talk and when they're just on my shoulder and we're just talking and it's really hard or whatever. Choosing your hard is so important. It's hard to stay exactly where you're at, no matter what the issue is, and to work through it and to truly heal. And it's also hard to just stay and not heal. So like you have a choice of either really working towards something and that being a healthy hard, and then there's like this hard that's just self-deprecating and horrible and that leads into deeper things and darker places. But it's also hard to heal and to go into places in your mind or in situations and friendships and whatever relationships and in health. How can we create habits in our life that help those places that when we want to heal in our life, whatever it might be? What are some great habits you've learned?
I think finding a habit and making it work for you is about taking a look at what you're willing to do and what will work for your life. So it's not the same for everybody. So I like to talk with an individual and find out what it is they're struggling with. Where are they now? Where do they want to be? And what are the things that could be plugged in that would fit their life to bring them to where they want to be? So habits are very interesting things. I remember I had a student who admitted that he wanted to give up smoking, that he was a smoker and he didn't want to smoke anymore. And he needed something to do with his fingers instead. And that's something that we talked about. He said, I want to give it up, but I find that I'll get nervous, and so I just pick them up again. And so we're like, well, what if there was something else that could keep your fingers busy? You already know that you're going to be tempted. If you decide in advance what you'll do instead, that could be a segue for you to transition to something else. And I know for a season that he did stop, but I don't know if he continued the rest of his life. But we came up with a little handheld game. It was a little Yahtzee game. It was a little battery-operated Yahtzee game. And it was something to do with your fingers. So for the next week, every time that you sort of think you might want to get out a cigarette, here's something else to do instead. Make up your mind that you're going to try this. And so instead of saying, I'm going to try to quit smoking, and you're like, I don't know, I'm just going to stop smoking. I'm just going to stop smoking. Well, try not to think about smoking when you're trying to stop smoking. Decide what you'll do instead, and then give that a try for a while to help you have a response to plug in when that urge strikes, because you can't expect it will. So take the habit of exercising, and that's a different kind of habit because you're not trying to quit anything except maybe quit being still.
Yeah.
But find out what will fit your life. What are you willing to do? And some people make a mistake, I think, when they start too much, too fast, too hard. And they're like going, okay, so I'm going to go to the gym every single day. I'm going to stay there for 4 hours. And you want to go, that's not sustainable for a lifetime unless you're training to be an Olympic athlete, but for a lot of what I'm going to call regular people, like athletes aren't regular people, that was weird. For people who have full-time work that's not related to athletics, they have all these other things to balance in their lives. 4 hours a day at the gym is not going to be a great sustainable thing for you. So what if you start small and see what you can stick with? Because the goal is to be active for a lifetime, not just to fit into your jeans this week. So start out with something that will fit your life. Instead of a gym membership on the other side of town, maybe for you, that's a bicycle around the block where you live. Start with something that will work for your life and won't just take over your life as you're getting started.
Well, and I think what happens is we only see like the big pictures of what people are doing, and also we only think like, okay, if we don't spend 4 hours, then that's not actually a good workout.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And we think just a ride around the block isn't enough. And how do you create something that is actually, I guess it's a lot of testing and seeing what each person is able to do and is comfortable doing. But what have you found in your life to work for you as far as when you were deciding, okay, fitness, I'm going to really jump into this whole fitness thing and help other people do it. Have you found a way of saying, okay, it may just be 15 minutes in your mind, but this is actually going to help it's actually helping your body. So, like, how did you plan out some of your fitness and your workout and tying that into, you said, don't start off doing absolutely everything at once.
Yeah.
How do you start tying things into your life a little bit each day? How do you do that?
Yeah, and starting small, I think, is an excellent habit for people who want to sustain it over a lifetime. You start small and then you grow.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that it's impossible to do it any other way, but by and large, it's a very effective system for take a little bit, and build your way up. So like maybe the first thing you're going to do is I'm just going to put on my walking shoes every morning at 6:30. And for the first week, that's all I'm going to do is put the shoes on. And then maybe the second week, I'm going to put my shoes on and walk to the mailbox and back if you live in the country. Or I'm going to walk around the block one time if you live in town. Just real small. And eventually you'll find yourself wanting to do more. Or very, very frequently. And then, but like if all you did was put on your walking shoes every day for a week, by the time the second week's here, you're like, I'm ready to go out to the mailbox, or I'm ready to walk around the thing. Because I've started this little habit, what time I'm going to do and where I'm going to do it and what it is. Sometimes I'll hear a person say, yeah, I'm going to try to work out this afternoon. And they don't know where it's going to happen or what kind of workout it's going to be, or whether they even have any sneakers that still fit or whatever. Yeah. And so making decisions about when, where, how long, and how much can be incredibly helpful in getting the job done. Because when I hear somebody say, I'm going to try to work out, my mind hears, oh, they're not committed. Because they haven't said, and that may not be accurate, but that's where my head goes, because I think they haven't said, they don't know what they're going to do. They don't know how long they're going to do it. They don't know where it's going to be. And if you haven't decided when it's going to happen and where it's going to be, how are you going to make that happen? That sounds like I wish it would happen, but I'm not willing to figure out the details to make it happen.
Or you think you have everything absolutely figured out, but you've overstocked yourself. Like, you said, okay, well, I'm going to get up at 6:30. Okay, well, if I'm going to put my shoes on at 6:30, then I want to have my smoothie made by 5, and I want to have this, that, or the other. And the minute that you run out of lettuce to put in your smoothie or whatever, I don't know what you put in smoothie.
That's a leafy green emergency.
Then it's like, well, then I'm done for the day.
All or nothing.
All or nothing. So how do you get out of that mindset?
Oh, you know what? That's a tough one. And for me, that comes with accountability. Because that can happen to Kim Bickel. The most frequent occurrence of that would be on the food plan. I'd be like, well, I already had an extra piece of cheese, so I might as well just forget the whole day because I was only supposed to have 1 piece of cheese.
Yeah.
Now I've had 2.5. Oh, But I have accountability that for me is an effective tool with that. So I have an online wellness club, and I report my food every day at the end of the day. And it's not like anybody in there is going to go, oh, you're a horrible person because you ate 2.5 pieces of cheese. But I do have people in my community that if they see that I have not met my macro balance over the course of a week, and they can see that not necessarily by diving into my details, but by seeing what I've said about it. So I've gone a whole week and I haven't said that I aced the food plan or that I nailed it. Then someone's going to reach out and go, hey, everything okay? And are you liking the results you're getting? Because if you like the results you're getting, cool. If you're having a struggle, do you need an extra text in the middle of the afternoon so that you don't find yourself eating a half a bag of potato chips because you're bored? Because there's seasons when that's a temptation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so we talk about real stuff like that. And my girlfriend Marilyn is real good about offering a text and saying, do you need me to text you in the middle of the afternoon? It's like, yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Keep each other on track. And it's not that it has to be perfect all the time, but if you're not doing a real great job most of the time, you're probably not where you want to be.
Well, yeah. So community is a big thing, really. If you want to keep going. I mean, I feel like you can, even the most independent person, still to have somebody else be able to like go on a run with you, or just say, hey, how's this going, or how's that going? A good friend just curious about it. It makes you feel better, and it makes you want to keep going, or it makes you think about the things. Do you ever find yourself, have you ever struggled with comparison when it comes to your fitness and everything?
Some. Sometimes I look at other people who are over the top fit and I think, wow, I'd like to be over the top fit like that. I'd like to be that strong. I'd like to be that fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's also true that I need to look at how hard I'm willing to work
Mm-hmm.
and how much suffering I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a season where I did some long distance running, and I would get disappointed because I wasn't faster. And then I would go, okay, well, I'm going to go as fast as I can. And I'd get out there, start running. I'd last 15 seconds. I'd be like, I hate being out of breath like this.
Yeah.
That's not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd look at somebody else who was really good at that. And then I think, well, why aren't you where they are? Because I haven't been willing to do the work that they're doing.
Mm.
Is that work that I want to do? Or is there another way I can get to my goal, feel fantastic, still get my jeans zipped, and be healthy?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I don't have to run to do that. Maybe I could do something else.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, something that I actually kind of like. That'd be good.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think it's about your heart posture when you're going into these things.
Mm.
So kind of like when you're starting something new, it's about why are you doing this? What is the true reason behind why you're doing something?
Uh-huh.
Do you think that applies with fitness? Because I feel like my generation really struggles with comparison. Really struggles with comparison and really looks at the person at the gym and sees their results. They see their middle instead of the beginning. They don't see the hard work that they had put in for 20 years or whatever it might be. But they instantly compare themselves. And I think women do it more than men, but I think men do as far as like, oh, he's lifting a higher weight or whatever. But it also becomes more of a core thing. It's not a core to the person, as in it's like a there's a difference between comparing somebody to say, okay, I'd like to get to that. That's somebody I look at and I'm like, okay, I would love to get to that someday. And it's encouraging to see. But at the moment it's not encouraging, then your heart posture has changed about that subject. As I've learned in my mind of just comparing I compare myself to people, whether I mean to or not. And I'm wondering, how can my generation stop looking at the person, the influencer that already has the great body, the influencer that has everything that they could always want, or the person at the local Y that just seems to be able to do whatever they can do? How can we stop comparing ourselves weight-wise as women? All of the things. How can we stop that cycle? How do you think?
That's an interesting question, because that's a tough thing for some people to do. One thing you could consider is asking yourself, let's begin with the end in mind. Let's look at, okay, when you're 80 years old, what do you want your life to have looked like and why? Just pretend, this sounds a little morbid, but just pretend that you're watching your own funeral and people are standing up and saying things about you. What are the things you would want them to say about you? And should that be what you're doing with your life? I want to be remembered as being kind and generous and characterized by someone who took good care of themselves, and are those things you can do? What if that were your end goal instead of this other thing? And that can be tough in the moment, because you look at that Miss America girl at the gym and you're like, oh, I'd like to look like that. Well, I haven't been willing to do what she's doing, so it's not going to happen for me. And that's my own choice. Getting to the place where it's more about feeling fantastic than it is about looking fantastic. And that can be a tough thing, because everybody wants to look good, but I've changed my own thoughts about how that used to be, because when I initially got started, I was just trying to get my jeans zipped. I was a middle-aged mom who kept having to buy bigger pants all the time, and I didn't want to do that. And that was where I started. And then as the years have gone by, my mindset has changed. And one of the things I recognize is that I think we honor God when we give good care to the bodies He provided for us.
Mm.
Some people say that God doesn't care what you eat or how you treat your body. And I think when we are purposeful about honoring the body He gave us, that's glorifying to Him.
Mm. Yeah, that's
But
good.
it's hard to draw that line between, well, does that mean you can't ever eat another Dorito chip as long as you live? Well, no, it doesn't mean that.
Mm-mm.
But if that's your breakfast, lunch, and dinner all day, every day, then you're probably not giving good care
Mm-hmm.
to the body He provided for you.
Mm.
Yeah, it's hard to get into someone else's head when they have a goal, but sometimes it's, why do you want that?
Mm.
So your goal might be to look like that Miss America girl in the gym. Why do you want to look like her? And then when you start looking at the why, maybe you can let that influence what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Mm. Yeah, because maybe when you look at the why, it's superficial instead of being something that runs deeper, that's important,
Mm-hmm.
that will actually make an impact to that end goal. You're right when you say like I love that you said, okay, look at yourself as an 80-year-old or at the end of your life, and you're thinking about what are you wanting to be remembered, and is what I'm about to do going to help me be a good person and be the things. And yes, fitness can really, really help. It really helps.
Mm-hmm.
But also the reasons why I know my generation gets in that trap is because they get stuck on the fact that, okay, like you said, can I look good in my jeans? Can I get my jeans zipped up? Or can I look good in a bathing suit when I go swimming? And I think the culture has stuff to say about this, and I think that's what even I can't just say my generation because it impacts everybody's thoughts. I think my generation talks a lot about it
Mm-hmm.
more because it's more prominent and there's more I think it's just more universally discussed. And sometimes that's a great thing, and then sometimes it just letting the culture run with our minds. When it comes to fitness and wellness, we can run down the trap of just scrolling through whatever social media platform people like to scroll through and see all these amazing things that are happening and then instantly doubt ourselves and that whole comparison. I like what you said. I think you really explained that very well because we kind of live in a microwave society.
We do.
We do. It in a lot of ways, right? And so if we don't see instant results or we don't get the comment or we don't get the whatever it might be, the like on social media for some people in their generation, it ruins everything and it ruins their purpose. And I think when you have a core purpose, a purpose like anything, your core is one of the most important parts of your body when you're fitness because it holds everything. It's your posture, it's everything. And so if our core isn't right when we go into the things that we are about to do, whether it's fitness, whether it's about to start a new job, whether it's about to be a mother or whatever it might be, if our heart and our core posture is not correct, it can really affect how it's going to affect our lives and how it's going to affect our minds and everything in between. I love that. Thank you for saying all that thing. That's just fascinating. I love that. Okay, so I want to kind of start tying this up because I could talk to you 1,000 times over and continue this conversation. I've had so much fun just talking to you. There might be a single mom listening to this podcast. She's overwhelmed. She's got kids. She's got everything going on in her life. She's working full time. She just has a lot going on in her life. And there doesn't seem time for herself. Or maybe she's married. It could be either way. But any mother knows this feeling of being overwhelmed. And I'm speaking to women just because I know you know women's health. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I know you, and we could have went so many, I wish this podcast was longer. We might have to have you back on.
I'd love to come back.
I would love that so much. But maybe she's listening to this and thinking, Kim, I have no time. I don't know how could I even think about taking care of myself when I've got these babies, or I've got,
Mm.
I've got taking care of my parents, or I've got whoever situation it is out there. What would you tell her in these moments?
I would tell her, I might start by asking her, if there was a way that you could, would you want to know?
Mm.
Because some people don't, they would rather hang on to their excuses than they would find a way to get the job done.
Mm.
Other people have done this. Other moms who are extremely busy have done this. So we have proof that it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
But I would start by trying to find out if she really wants to do it or if she's just making the excuses so you won't encourage her because she doesn't want to do it.
Mm.
So I would start by asking if there was a way that could be done, would you want to know? And then that it gets real when you ask that question. So let's say somebody says, I really do want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Go. It's very hard to look at your own life and see where the use of your time can be adjusted for benefit. That's really hard to see objectively.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can see it, and sometimes somebody else can look at it and go, well, have you considered this, and this that could be done differently that would bring you to a place where you could do this? So we know it can be done because other people have done it. So sometimes you ask the question, what is it that I'm going to stop doing so that this will fit in my life because it's important to me? So for some people, it's going to be, well, while my kid is at soccer practice, I'm going to walk around the parking lot. For somebody else, it might be, well, what worked for my own life was to get up in the morning and get it done before anybody else was out of bed, because that's the time I'm least likely to be interrupted. And I wouldn't quit because of interruptions. At that time of day, nobody else was up. There weren't any demands. That worked for my life. Not everybody's a morning person. I am, and so that worked for me. But for somebody else, it might be after the kids have had a bath and they're in bed, then I'm going to do 15 minutes on the treadmill. Finding out what works for your life and what you can do. For somebody else, it might be, from now on, when I eat my lunch, I'm going to walk around the hallways of the office or wherever you're working while I eat my stand-up lunch. Or for somebody else, it might be, I'm going to adjust my desk so it's a stand-up desk instead of a sit-down, and that will keep me on my feet more during the day. What's the thing that will work for your life that you're willing to do? And that's where you start. So does that answer what you wanted to know?
I think that's great. I love that, and I'm going to throw one more thing on top of that. What about the mother who says, I don't know if I'm worth spending that much time on myself because moms pour so much and you can't pour from an empty cup. Or just that person that's listening. It doesn't have to be a mother, just that person. What would you tell them if they said, I'm just not worth taking care of? I'm not worth this, I don't see the reason and I don't see the worth behind this. I don't know what just completely, their mindset is on the negative of who they are and they don't see them as God sees them. What would you say to them?
That is so sad. And I might start by saying, what makes you think that? Or what makes you feel that way? Knowing what their circumstances are might influence what I'm thinking or feeling about that. Somebody else can say, "What? Well, you're incredibly valuable. You're wonderful." And that doesn't change their feeling about themselves. So it kind of doesn't matter what anybody else thinks if they're feeling that.
Right.
Is there a way I can find out why they're feeling that? And is there a way I can help them view that differently? not just, here's what I think. I think you're wonderful. I think you're beautiful. I think you're worthwhile. I think you're incredible. Because it's not about what I think. It's about what they're feeling and how to make them feel better.
Mm.
Is there a way that can happen? And I don't always know what that is. I've not had anyone say that to me, but I would want to ask some questions about what they're going through or what brought them to feel that way.
Mm. Mm.
Some people, lots of people, can benefit from counseling, but you don't want to just go up to somebody and go, listen, you need some counseling. I mean, you can't just say it like that to somebody.
No.
But sometimes that's a case.
Yeah. And having that community, like you're saying, around you, maybe getting involved with the community, just being out more with people who are encouraging to them. I'm just wondering, because I have heard it before. And I've experienced people who they might not outwardly say it, but they show it.
And I just started to remember something about a story my sister told me once about how she offered and said, hey, why don't I go with you? Why don't the two of us get together 3 times a week and we'll just walk for 30 minutes and we'll talk and we'll share our hearts. And that can be the beginning of something that starts that person feeling better, because it's a scientific fact that being active can help your mood and help your disposition. And maybe doing that together, holding her hand, if you will, through these early stages to get to a place where she's starting to feel a little better and she has some hope.
I like that. I like that because that shows both sides. So if you're the receiver of what somebody says that to you or implies that to you, then it's like, okay, now how can I do it? You said, okay, well, let's go for a walk. Let's go do this. It shows how to be a good person to somebody on top of everything else. I love that. And I just had to say, you are such a good person. And I just am so glad that we got to talk. Like I said, we could have talked more detail. We could have went on thousands of rabbit trails. But I love that the fact that our conversation today led us to this point of just the fact that it shows your heart. It's just your heart shines through. And I just thank you so much for being here. It's been so fun, and I want you to come back.
You're welcome, and I'd be happy to. It's been fun for me, too. Thank you, Lauren.
I'm so glad. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, because I sincerely did. I am incredibly inspired every single time someone walks into my studio and sits down. I am able to look in their eyes, and I am welcomed into their story. And that is priceless. It is a great honor and also a great responsibility to think that when they said yes to come onto my podcast, that meant that they trusted me. They trusted me enough to allow me to help tell their story, and to me, that means the world. So thank you to my guest. If you'd like to connect with my guest, if they left any or mentioned any of social media or websites, it will be in the description box below, as well as on my Facebook and Instagram if you want to see what they look like. I have a portrait and a small little write-up along with anything they mentioned within this podcast. So I hope today that you have been inspired to look at your own life and to see that just living your life is important. But I want to inspire you as well to actually document your life. You have an importance in this world, and I want you to use your voice. So it doesn't have to look like 6 pages in a journal or being on a podcast. It can look like a line a day. If you'd like to connect with me, make sure you head over to hereinmytime.com. That is where I have a bi-weekly blog, as well as some of my portfolio work with photography, and where you can also contact me through email at hereinmytime@gmail.com, as well as follow me on Facebook and Instagram. This is at hereinmytime as well, here.inmytime for Instagram, and I have weekly content. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world. And until next week,